Nah, biasa. Okay, nah. Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening. Welcome to our fourth topic talk for this semester. So this week the topic has been selected by Dr. Fairuz himself, and the topic is scholarly writing, not a personal narrative. So to begin our talk for today, give it to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So actually, I'm not aware that I'm supposed to give a coffee talk today because I thought you're supposed to update me with the poster, but it's okay. Because I was thinking that earlier I would like to bring some of my previous publication for your reference, but it's okay. For today, we're just going to have some verbal sharing on it related to the publication. So of course, in a context of academic, not purely on literatures. So, what do you think, first of all, the importance of publication? Or what do you think we need to publish, especially for those master and PhD students? Why do you need to publish?
Why? Why? Who master student here? Yeah, for me, for my opinion, because we need to share our experience, experiment data to the worldwide, and then we also need to update the ongoing research. So I think that's very important.
Actually, to share.
Yeah, share.
To share and also to accept a criticism related to our work, because sometimes we'll never know whether our work is actually correct, 100% correct. If it is correct, then it's good, then other people can replicate it, okay, from different countries. So that is actually one of the purpose of publication. And furthermore, we publish things so that the legacy of the civilization can actually be sustained. So if it is just the words of a man, so people will tend to forget about it. Okay, so that's the difference between religion and also culture. Because religion usually will be accompanied by the book. Okay, so you have Quran, you have Bible, you have Torah, and those other religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, they also will have their own scripture, so that their follower will have a firm foundation for them to follow. Right, so that's important of a scripture. But it's culture, sometimes it's just a words which has been given to us, it's actually given to us by our elders. Sometimes we'll never know whether it's true, it's facts or not, but we tend to follow it because our mother asks us to do. For example, do not cut your fingernails at night.
Okay.
What's the reason? For example, right? But when it comes with the scripture, usually scholars will start to learn about it, to understand it, and that will be a foundation for us to follow. Especially in the world that we are living today, there are a lot of things which rapidly change throughout time. Sometimes we'll never know, even though the majority of people are doing it, sometimes what's the foundation of people doing it. So without the fundamentals, we tend to be, get adrift in life. So until the point that we can get lost, we will never know where we are standing anymore. So who we are, we'll never know. So for example, like we are sitting here today, we're wearing different clothes, but is it the clothes that our grandparents are wearing? So we actually, even though we are wearing a different brands, but almost everyone following the same trend, even though we are from different religious background, different culture. In Malaysia, for example, we tend to have a different ways of speaking, a similar way of speaking, similar way of dressing, but it is not based on our culture anymore, not being influenced by culture, because when we do not have something foundation for us to follow, will tend to be influenced. For clothing, still okay as long as it's proper, okay. But how about a culture of thinking, the behavior, the morality? So if there is no foundation, there is no clear cut on what's right and what's wrong, we can easily be influenced. Okay, so that's why we need books, we need references for us to follow. Okay, so that's on general context. But because for the scientific world, we need to have publication so that once we want to start up with new science research, we already have some fundamental works, okay, prior to whatever we want to do, so that we can progress, okay, we can improve from whatever people has been doing. So it's no need for us to keep on repeating all over again. Then only we want to progress from that point. Okay, for example, what usually our motivation in doing research? For example, what is the motivation? From where we get the idea, where we want to start?
Our supervisor.
So usually for master, for undergraduate, for master especially, sometimes for especially for undergraduate, how can we know where to begin in research? It's very difficult, okay? Because whatever you studied, okay, that's based on a textbook. To do research is a different thing. We are trying to do something which is a little bit current, okay, something which is related to the latest technology, which is relevant to the industry, with your future workplace. Okay, unlike the textbook, usually it's very fundamental. Okay, it gives you strength in your early knowledge, but sometimes it might not be sufficient for it to become a title for your final project. Okay, so about final project is usually that will be a real standpoint for you to be called as physicist, as an engineer, and which qualifies you to get a proper job later on. Okay, sometimes we go to during my time when I went for interview, usually they will ask me, what's the final project that you have done? Okay, so but if you just focus on the subject, everybody are doing almost the same subject, okay, in university. When it comes to master itself, will be almost the same. Usually we still do not know, we know specifically, okay, what field you want to do. That's why you approach your supervisor, future potential supervisor. But exactly the title, how you want to get it. Okay, like for my case, I did my master with my Prozube. So at first he asked me to do something related to cancer. Okay, I completely have no idea what is actually the title which is suitable for me to do for my master. Okay, even though I have completed my degree, I have several working experience in private colleges, but to do master, what can I do with what title which is suitable to be called as a master project? Because I just work as a lecturer in private colleges, still doing the same thing, the same subject which I studied during my undergrad. So that doesn't actually improve my creativity on the current trend of research in engineering or physics. So when I met with Prozube, so that also have a long history, how actually I happened to contact with Prozube. Okay, so to cut it short, I called one day, randomly select a potential supervisor from a school of physics website. So I saw Prozube name. Okay, it's quite an interesting title related to remote sensing. And then I just simply called him, and he actually willing to entertain me without asking much. He told me, I told him that, can you give me any title which I can appreciate, any knowledge, because I completely have no idea, where to begin. Then he told me that to make things easy, so it's better for you to come and see me, so we can have a discussion. So when he looked at my background, I'm actually a graduate in electronic engineering. So he gave me one simple title related to development of optical fiber sensor for early cancer detection. So he gave me a rough idea on how the system will look like. So when I look at the title and I refer back to my undergraduate background, so I know a little bit on electronics, even though I graduate, of course, in electronic engineering. But once he gives me just a title, then that completely enlightens me on, oh, this is actually a sort of title which I can use for my master. Then I can begin. So I just need a title because we do not know where to begin. Okay, so when you already have a title, then you can have references. You can read a lot of references which is available online, right? Okay, and it's good to do research now because there are millions of literatures available online. You do not have to go to library to search from one book to another book. Previously, I don't know how they completed their master or PhD, okay? Because you have a title, you need to go to the library to find the suitable books and to find the keywords manually. Okay, I'm not sure whether they have a shortcut methods on finding the keywords. Okay, like for me, when I start my master, when you have internet, you have all the computer tools. Sometimes you don't even need to read the entire articles to come up with a good literatures. Okay, you just type the keywords. Okay, this article already have this keyword, so I just copy paste, paraphrase it, and those will become my literatures. Okay, so therefore, to study master and PhD, and of course a degree, in this day supposed to be a lot easier. So there's no reason not to do a good research, especially on your introduction and literature review chapters. Okay, because the abundance of information which is available online. Okay, but still some of the students, especially, you have been with me with 106, 206, I see that when I actually give you assignment to do some simple report on 106 on semiconductor devices, even though I think almost all students now have access to computers, internet, where you can get easy access to all the information, where you can actually give me some good assignments, but that's not the case. Okay, unfortunately, I think maybe some of the students they are born with the technology. Okay, they're alive to see the technology is already there, so maybe they take things for granted. For example, even the simple formatting also, some of you didn't follow. Literature also not comprehensive, whereas if you sit down in a table, you can get hundreds of information, so there's no reason why you are not able to follow the simple instruction to come up with the proper formatting. Okay, not yet we are talking about the content, the formatting itself also, sometimes the students are not able to comply correctly with it. Okay, I actually asked you, give assignment to you for your 106, actually to give you an early exposure on what writing is all about, so that you are well prepared for your final projects later on. Okay, so that is the issues now. Even though we have abundance of literatures, but still our research work, our fundamentals of writing research article or thesis is not really up to the standards. Okay, if compared to the resources, abundance of resources that we are having now. Okay, so when, for example, for my case, when I have a title, it's easy for me to find literature related to the title. So the title has a keywords, optical fiber sensors, cancer cells, and so on. So I can go to the internet and find research article to get real information on what are the related research which people have done, okay, related to the area. Okay, but unfortunately during that time I was working in Terengganu. I'm not able to complete my I almost didn't do anything throughout 1 year because I have quite a hectic working life in Terengganu at that time. So but still I decided to take a temporary leave, unpaid leave, for me to complete my master, because I know to have a future in academics, I cannot survive to have just a degree. So for a few months, of course, I can survive, but the demand will be very high, and therefore, no matter what, I need to sacrifice my work and to complete my full-time study. So that's why in 2007 I actually arrived here in May 2007. To completely begins with my research. So 1 year already abandoned. So I start in 2007. At that time, Prof. Zubir told me that you don't have much time left because you have just a couple of months to complete your entire master. And so he asked me to do something different, still optical fiber sensor, but for water turbidity measurement. Okay, so almost all the title, which is decided by my supervisor at that time. Okay, because as a junior in research, even though we have references online, but still to make an easy access to a research idea, I completely relying on my supervisor. Okay, so he told me that to study cancer you need to learn all over again related to biology, cancer, and it's not easy. and some more we do not have reference here. Okay, we may have reference online, okay, literature's work other people have done, but here if we do not have any of our colleagues or our friends who have completed the experiment using the facilities here, we might not be able to still complete the research. Okay, so people have done, they have the facilities, so how about us? So literature we can have access, but how about the instrumentation? So he asked me to do on water turbidity, because the preparation of the sample I can do it myself. Okay, I don't need expert to prepare the sample for me. Okay, because this is water turbidity. You just take the particles, weigh it, and put inside a liter of water. So that's how you prepare a few milligrams of milligram per liter of a water turbidity sample. So I have a total control of my experiments. Okay. So that's how I begin to do my master. So it's not much begins with my scholarly findings throughout internet and so on, not really entirely based on my my personal interest, okay, but still managed to complete my master. But when it comes to my PhD, also the keywords of the experiment is provided by my supervisor. Also, I did it with Prozube, but at that time, because I already have confidence that I have completed my master, so he just gave me the keywords. So everything else I do it myself. Okay, so that's how I search the internet for relevant research article. I tried to get, at that time Prozube also received a grant, so that's actually a great thing when you have a grant. So by referring to the literatures available online, the research work which people have done, you can see the instrumentation that they have used to achieve a specific research, the parameters that they have chosen for that specific research, and then with some budget allocated for me, so I can buy an instrumentation which is suitable for me to repeat some part of the experiment that people have done, but I use different samples, and of course I use different techniques later on. But when you have existing literatures which people have done, so you can more or less predict the difficulties level of your experiment. So by that way you can cut short on your your adventures in doing your master or PhD. Okay, or else I mean, how for you to begin? I mean, what instrument which is possible? What parameter you want to measure? Okay, and what's the possibility rate that it can work? Okay, so because of the references that we have high confidence that our research work can be done with the existing facilities. That's how we can complete our master or PhD research quickly. So I complete my master, of course, registered 2 years, but I can complete from the time I arrived in USM until I completed my thesis. It took me, I came here in May, in 2nd May. I completed my thesis in December. Okay, so you begin your experiments until December. The thesis is ready for me to submit. Okay, from scratch. So when I arrive here, Prozube give me a title. Until that point, so we start to go all out. And December I completed everything. Okay, so while waiting for the Viva and so on, of course it take another few more months to complete things. So of course that time I was here every day, but I spent from I think about 8 o'clock until 3 or 4 o'clock. So usually after 3 o'clock I will take sometimes some rest, to get more ideas on what experiment that I need to do. Again, we have references. Okay, the references which is provided by Prozube on the he has a former student, a PhD student who have completed the experiment related to the area. So again, from the experimental data provided from the thesis, I know again the expected result, the curve of result. Okay, but of course I modified the instrumentation. I use optical fiber. I use a highly sensitive sensor to get the better result compared to the previous student. So again, the reference is important. So when other people have completed the experiment, they complete it together with the full documentation. From that documentation, you get some result. I can imitate the experiment okay, to give a confidence that my research work actually can work. And using that as a reference, I can try to come up with a better result, better setup, better results. So that is important of the writing, okay, publication, so that we can improve, keep on improving our result. Okay, same go for my PhD. Before I register for my PhD, I do some background work. So the time when I registered until I completed my PhD, it took me about 2 years plus, okay, until I completed the thesis. And because we have abundance of information available online, okay, so that is actually can make us finish early, okay, as long as you have the suitable instrumentation with you, okay. So that is the important reference, okay. So usually we are conducting our master or PhD experiment using the existing, it's actually an advancement of the experiment which other people have done. The main reason is you do not want to get stuck halfway, okay, unless if you are already a permanent staff in a certain university and so on, then you can venture on the endless road to scientific works. Because if, for example, like I'm now working here as a permanent staff, of course I need to have some research work which I can continue to publish. But at the same time, I can take risks to do research which I'm not sure whether it can work or not. If it doesn't work, it doesn't cost me anything. But for a student, if it doesn't work, it costs you time and also money to pay more for your semester. Okay, so usually that's the thing that we need to be careful. So usually for a lecturer, they're supposed to be more adventurous in pursuing for their research work, because they are actually not bounded with time, okay, and money if the work is actually is failed. But that if you are not bundled with a research grant, then okay, if you bundled with research grant, then of course it is already involved with money and also time constraint. Okay, so coming back on the research flow, usually typically, even though most of us the title is given by the supervisor, but research idea usually come from a hypothesis. So what is actually the motivation for us to do the research? Okay, of course the title usually been given by the supervisor and so on, but that one will be the hidden part of your thesis. Okay, so what will be a report in the thesis will begin from the research question, the hypothesis. So from where the hypothesis coming from? So we are not an ancient natural philosopher where we look at the environment and start to think, right? Okay, and to have a scientific theory. From there only we start to derive on our research method and to prove whether the hypothesis is correct or wrong. Okay, and okay, most of the time nowadays our hypothesis also be derived from the previous research work. Okay, for example, I give you an example related to my research. For my PhD, I have done experiment on fruits quality measurement using a spectroscopy technique. There are abundance of literature related to this. Okay, this is not something new. People have done it. In Malaysia, I'm not sure. Maybe people have done it as well. But literature-wise, not many. Almost, I don't find any article related to the spectroscopy analysis of carambola or star fruits intrinsic quality. So I would like to venture into that. One of the reasons because I claim that star fruits has a very glossy surface. It might causes the specular reflectance to be higher. So therefore, to study on the intrinsic quality of the star fruits using spectroscope technique maybe will be a little bit more difficult. So that's what I think of. And I try to venture into a comparative study between reflectance and interactance technique. Those things, people have done it before. Okay, but I just want to look at from the context of the Malaysian local fruits, which is star fruits. But another new things that I'm trying to promote for my PhD is that if we are using spectroscopy technique, it is actually an instrument or techniques that perform the analysis on the broad spectrum. Okay, from 200 nanometer up to 2000 nanometer, for example. But to select a wavelength which is the best to quantify the quality of the star fruits, it's not the entire range of wavelength. They are selected wavelength only. So instead of relying on the spectrometer, okay, all the way through the research, I select several wavelength only, which I think will be the best to quantify the star fruit quality. Then I choose the LED with the same wavelength and the photo detector. Okay, so how do I get this idea? It's also based on literature. Okay, so some literature stated that since LED is now widely available, it's very low cost. Okay, you can get two ringgit of LED with very high emission, very high stability, and photo sensor that costs you less than 10 ringgit, which also very good sensitivity. So with these few ringgit of components, you can already perform your measurement. Okay, so people have suggested in literature, in research article, but they themselves didn't do it. So they just suggest it as part of this, their conclusion or summary. They didn't do it, but they suggested that this could be the possible potential in the future, a low-cost solution to the fruits quality measurement. So I take this as hypothesis, what they call it, something like research question for me to answer it in my research. Okay, so they come up with the article, they do something else, but they actually suggest the reader to try something different. Okay, and this is very much low cost compared to spectrometer that costs more than 10k, 20k. So the one that we are actually doing is costs us a lot more cheaper. If you're using microcontroller, Arduino now costs about 100 ringgit only. If you're using basic stem, maybe 300 ringgit. So that is actually a much cheaper solution. Okay. So of course, again, that is important of the literature. Okay, and that's how we can get the hypothesis from. Okay, if just based, sometimes the hypothesis also can be based from just a conversation with, for example, I had a conversation with madu kelulut, stingless bee honey. The farmer claimed that there are many adulterated stingless bee honey available in the market. Okay, and this thing you might not be able, this statement, this problem, you might not be able to get it straight from the literature, from journals, because this is actually a recent thing. Okay, and even if it is available in internet, maybe it's appeared in maybe newspaper, okay, maybe blog. Okay, but usually we want to come up with a hypothesis. We want to get it something which is either from literature or you get it from the real source of the problem. Okay, so the farmer give the problem statement which we can pick up and do research related to it. So the problem statement can also come from them. Okay. So that is actually the importance of writing. My early interest in writing is actually come back to when I was 11 years old, because at that time, during my primary school, I was not good in any of the subject except in writing. In that time, which year? When I was 11 years old, it was in 1989. Right in front of the library of my school. I still clearly remember it because that was my first serious ambition. I didn't get good in all the subject except my writing, Karangan Bahasa Malaysia. Okay. I get only about 75 marks only. So that was the best mark I get. The rest of it, of course, maybe 50 or 40 marks. So at that time, I thought that maybe I'm good in writing, because even though I get 75 marks, I think I get the highest in the class. So that actually really motivates me. I think maybe I'm good in writing. So I told myself that no matter what I'll become in the future, one of it is to become an author. Okay. So that's one side of the story, the one that motivates me. Then when I arrive here, actually before I start with my master and PhD, I still have a deep interest in writing, but I do not know what to write. Okay, after one Friday prayer, you know, Dr. Daniel Zainab, yeah, he opened a clinic. So after Friday prayer, where he actually given the Friday sermon, after completed the prayers, so I stopped him. I told him that I'm interested in writing. So can I have an appointment to you? I want to learn from you, because at that time he wrote several books on Islam and science. So surprisingly, actually he is actually willing to entertain me in 2005 at that time, before I met with Prof. Zubir. He said, okay, we can make an appointment. So I met with him in clinic Shifa. Right? He willing to take 1 hour to explain to me, to answer a few of my questions related to religion as well. At that time, he actually encouraged me to write and send my work to PTS publication. I'm interested to write something related to knowledge, but again, how to begin? Right? I completely have no idea, but I know that I'm interested in something related to human, social science, knowledge, education. But I told Dr. Daniel, actually, I'm interested to write, but I don't know how to begin, and I don't have much experience in life as well. So of course I've been teaching in several places, but teaching the same thing, okay, with the same group of students, it doesn't really enhance my knowledge. So I think maybe I need to. That time also interested to do my master. So everything actually worked at the same time. Okay, so I just tried everything possible to see which one comes first. Then only when I able to start my master, completed my master. So before I complete my master, Prof. Zubir suggests me that why don't you try to send an article to a journal. At that time, he suggested me to send to one journal called Census. I have no idea what is a journal. I've been to conference before, so that was quite simple. You know, just write this article. At that time, I really take conference writing very seriously. So I thought, oh, people were going to review my article, so I have to present it properly. You know, write research article properly. So in the end, I know that those who send their articles to conference actually doesn't take that seriously. Okay. So my first research article actually was published in AIP conference proceeding. Actually, the article based on my presentation in PERFIC, persidangan fizik in Terengganu at that time. So when my article was selected and published in AIP conference proceeding, so I was very excited. I even shared my articles with my friends, and my friends shared it with other friends to say that how proud they are with me because I published one conference article. But that really motivates me, because I love to write. Then when Prof. Zubir asked me to send to a censor, he said this censor journal has an impact factor. So what is impact factor, and what's the difference between journal and conference? So then what I did was, I know that I cannot repeat whatever I presented in the conference. So what I did was, at that time I started to learn that instead of writing research article, we can also write a review article. Okay, so then what I did was I write a review article for Censor Journal. I think the number of references I wrote at that time only 19 references. So I just recompile back whatever data that I have, including the one which I have presented in the conference. I compile them, I put some extra literatures. With the 19 references, I sent to the journal. Then I received a reply from the editor. I said, with 90 references, this is not a review article. Okay. Luckily for me, I think I submitted my article. It was published in 2009, but at that time, I think I published in September 2009. I think I also sent the article in the same year. Luckily at that time, I don't think it is still a worldwide trend to send articles to journal. Okay, so therefore, even though I just wrote an article with a very limited references. So the journal didn't reject my work, but instead they advised me to add up more references. Then I add several more references. I think up to 50 something. Okay, 50 references only. Still not that many for review article, but that time still considered as okay. It's not that much long. It was only 2009. But I was lucky at that time because the reviewer, there were 3 reviewers at that time, give me a really comprehensive comment for me to further improve my article. So at the first, editor asked me to upgrade my articles, add up more references. Once I add the references, I follow the advice, then only they send up my research work to a journal. To the reviewer. So when you send the articles, editor will accept it, will see whether it is suits the journal, field of interest or not. Then only, if it is okay, then only they will send it to 3 reviewers. For that journal, there were 3 reviewers. So that's why I told you I was lucky because the reviewer really gave me a very comprehensive comment. Okay, asked me to improve. That's how I really improve my work. They even give me references, extra references for me to refer to. So once the reviewer didn't reject your work, okay, they ask you to improve it even though it is a major correction. So you need to try your best to 100% comply to it. Once you comply to it, then usually they're not going to reject it. But if there are any more correction, then they will ask you to further improve it. So that's how I get it published in my first impact factor journal for census. But the interesting thing about the reviewing comment, so there were 3 reviewers. In terms of my language, because I didn't send my articles to any English editing, so I just 100% I wrote it. No one edit my language. But the best thing is that there were 3 reviewers. The first reviewers comment that my language is very good. The second one said it's an average language. The last one said it's a poor language. Exactly the same article, but 3 completely different opinions on the language. So the language is actually the same language. So one says it's very good, one says it's just average, another one says it's very poor. So that's how now I realize that actually it's quite subjective. So who are actually your reviewer? Who are the one who comment on your language, your structure of writing? So it's very subjective sometimes. So I'm not sure who my reviewer, because that is actually a blind review. You're not supposed to know who are your reviewer. But it's quite an interesting. It's really give me a real confidence because I put 100% all my effort. Okay, I do everything on my own, and it is being accepted by the journal. Because to be able to complete my master, that is actually quite local. Okay, because my examiner at that time, one was from Uni 10, another one from University Malaya. So I have two external what they call examiner. Okay, but still local. But once you're able to get your work published by the international reviewer, then you feel confident with your work. You feel that if other people can recognize your work, means that your work is up to a certain standard. Okay, so at least, because sometimes when we just sit alone in our lab, we do our experiments. Of course, it's based on some other people's work, but you'll never know, worldwide how people look at your work. Okay, maybe you just shot scenery in the lab. You get some data out, but maybe it's already outdated. Okay, but to be able to get your work published, it shows that you are actually standing somewhere. Okay, with the research community, that other people are willing to accept your work. So that's actually very important. To be able to pass your master or PhD, like I told you, it's actually a local thing. Okay, and you are being treated as individual. There's no competition. There's no such thing as quota, or this month only one student can graduate. Okay, there's no quota. So you are individual. So if your work achieves a certain standard, yes, then you graduate. But to be able to publish in journal, you are actually competing.
Yes.
Okay, if you can come up with a good research work, everything is good. You find it, you have done something which is good. But if other people have done better, so their research work will be published. If there are many people who are writing something or doing research which is much better than you, so there is a competition. So for me, you need to do both. Okay, to proceed with your master or PhD, and at the same time try your best to get your work published somewhere. Okay, because you need more people to evaluate your work, to make you feel confidence that you are doing something that other people can understand and appreciate. Okay, and furthermore, during when I did my master, I'm just using all the low cost component only, because at that time when I did my master, we still do not have much budget. I just used my own pocket money for I think total 500 ringgit to buy all the components that I need to do for my master. Okay, and I don't even know where to buy the fiber optic socket. Okay, I don't have resources. I don't have much money to buy the fiber optic proper socket. So I use a phono jack as a socket for my fiber optic cable.
Wow.
Okay, so that was actually a very, very traditional experimental setup. If I'm not mistaken, the research article which I published in Sensor, I also label it as a phono jack. Okay, so but still it been accepted. So I feel very happy with it. So therefore, I start to maneuver my research. I was thinking that if other people are going into very niche area, very expensive experiment, expensive research, it's better for me to get away from that area. So it's better for me to get into something which is much low cost, using simplest method possible, using a simple language, but try to get into journal as well. Okay. Luckily that works. Of course, the competition now is very high. It's unlike in 2009. Now, to be able to get your work, get into the reviewer also will be very difficult, because the editor themselves will reject our work. Yeah. Okay, because there are hundreds of emails they receive every day. If they just skim through your work, if they find it is quite common, so they will simply reject it. So you don't even get a chance to receive a comment from reviewer. My second article, I did an experiment related to sugar, what do you call it, sugar concentration experiment using, of course, a spectrometer again. The first experiment was conducted by using glucose and fructose solution. Okay, so it's very simple experiment. I just dilute glucose and fructose solution in water. So I just want to see the effect of measuring the concentration using near infrared region of the spectrometer. Okay, it's very simple work. Anybody with a spectrometer and enough money to buy sugar, they can do the experiment. So a scientific grade of sucrose, fructose costs about 60 ringgit or maybe cheaper, okay, per kilogram. Okay, so it's very, very straightforward experiment. When the first time I submitted the research article, again at that time, I cannot remember, maybe in 2010, maybe in 2010, I conducted the experiment, I sent it to Food Chemistry Journal. So at that time, again, I feel that maybe not many people send out their article to journal. Even though I realized that my article at that time is very brief, again, not many references, not many data. One plot of graph, I have only about 30 different sugar concentration. But still, when I send my article to Food Chemistry Journal, they send up, the editor receive it and send my articles to reviewer. So from the reviewer comment, one of the comment, I think they said that, okay, you have done on sucrose, glucose and fructose, how about sucrose? So they said, no, the number of data is not enough, so at least have more than that. So 30 samples is not good. So you have calibration only. How about validation? So they give a lot of comment. They rejected my work, so it's okay to be rejected, but they give a lot of comment for me to improve. So I improve it. Of course, once you improve it, you cannot send it back to them. So once rejected, then that's it. Unless if it is rejected, but they say you can improve it and send it back, then okay. But if simply reject it, so no more. Okay, but it's good. So I receive long comment from them. Then I improve it and send it to somewhere else. So almost every night, in the morning and in the afternoon, I will be in the lab to do experiment. So every night I will spend time to find suitable journal. So send it out that night. After 1 week, get rejected. I think the research work was the article was rejected almost 20 times. Okay, by different journals. So some articles the editor rejected, say not suitable. Some reject with comments. And finally, I decided to do the experiment all over again to have 50 data calibration and validation. And one thing that I add up in the research article was I said that my instrument is much lower in cost compared to the other instrumentation used by other research articles. So that was a strange way of writing article, because I even write the cost of instrumentation. Okay, so my instrument, how many USD? So other research article, so how many USD? So that is actually very strange way. I never see anybody done that, just to prove that I'm doing a low cost experiment. But again, it's, when you do strange thing, you will get a comment. One of the reviewer comment that, oh, this is actually a low cost solution to the existing experiment, and he accepted the article just because of that. Okay. And one more thing I realized in writing research article, if you refer to my articles, usually the literature is very long. Okay, because I know that if just based on my experiments and result, usually I just do simple things. Okay, but even though it's just simple research work, I still want to push it forward to get it published. But how to make it stronger? Usually, I need to highlight the importance of my data by having a lot of literature. So all the literatures I have collected really support my research work to show how important it is. And one more thing, never criticize your data in your article. Okay, for example, got one time I just one sentence only, I stated that even though my result is comparable to others, okay, but I'm providing a low cost solution. Just because I have that phrase, comparable, okay, they say if it is the same, then what for you want to write? You want to do this type of experiment? It's the same thing only. So there's no novelty. So they rejected my work. One of the journal, okay, and the same person claims that between few US, I think 20, I cannot remember, between 4 USD and 25 USD. He said 25,000 USD is not a high cost for him. So he said your research work has no novelty. But the other guy who accepted my article to be published, he said that this is actually a reasonable way of presenting your novelty. So finally, after 2 years, I think the article finally get published. Okay, so it was a struggle, but I mean, you don't have to feel disappointed once you get rejected. Right? But because once you get rejected, sometimes if you are lucky, the reviewer will give good comments to you. Good comment means it is actually a bad comments, but something that you can improve. Okay, so that's how you learn. Okay, you learn on how to improve your research article so that it can suit with the reviewer, appreciation of the experimental work. Especially like my research area, we are doing on metrology, quantitative science. We need to have at least 50 data. Without 50 samples, it is not qualified to be published. Okay, most of the time. Yeah. And so that's again something which actually boosts up my confidence in writing. And since then, I keep for my PhD, I think I managed to get up to 6 or 7 impact factor journal. okay, in different area. But one thing I realized that in my my entire PhD thesis, of course I have my main objective. Okay, the main objective of my thesis is the one that I'm confident it can work even before I start the experiment. Okay, so means it clear cut, it can work. So it will give me confidence. So I know that if anything was happen, I'm not going to drag into somewhere endless. Okay, so once I already have a clear objective, this thing is able to work, then it will make me confidence to explore on something new. But strangely, until I completed my PhD, all my other work, okay, the one that are willing to adventure, to do something new, to introduce something new, those things has been published, but my main data cannot publish. Okay, because when you write a main data, that's actually typical things. Okay, the one that give you confidence, they are mainly available in other people's work, so you're actually following the same thing. Okay, so the one that you don't, you actually confidence, that one is actually a simple thing, and to get it published is very difficult. So there were actually a time where I actually introduced my own statistic technique to interpret the curve of my graph. So that one can get published because I'm willing to go into different direction. Until the end, my main data I cannot get it published. So what I did was I tried many journals, and from the reviewer comment, I know that there's no way for me to get this work published. Okay, so you know the type of comment that reviewer give you, that you should give up from sending to journal. Okay, but journal is not the last option. Okay, we have a lot of different publication. For my master thesis, besides sending out to few journals, I compile it to make it as a book, what we call as a monograph, and I send it to be published with the penerbit USM. At that time, I sent it out to be published with penerbit in somewhere mid 2009, the same year, and I think the same month which I registered for my PhD. So I completed my PhD in 2012. The books appear later than that, so means that it took about 3 years to get my book published. Okay, at that time. But my second book, which actually part of it contained the main data of my PhD, which I cannot get published anywhere else. So I compile it with my wife a thesis to make it two separate experimental on fruits quality experiments using spectroscopy technique. So I did on star fruits, my wife did on mango. So we combine it and to make as a monograph, and to get it published with the penerbit USM. And now it takes less than a year. The time when you submit it, because they need to send out for reviewing as well. So it doesn't mean that you send to penerbit USM, they will simply accept it and publish. No, they will send out for reviewing process as well. So the reviewer will comment whether this book is suitable to be published or not. So you need to give some background studies on the book. How many books do you think it can be published? What are the rival books available in the market? So one great thing about publication with penerbit USM is that of course the reviewing process is quite comprehensive, but the editing process by penerbit USM is very, very good. Okay, it's extremely good. If you send to journal, I'm not sure whether the journal will really edit your language or not. Usually they will publish it as it is. As long as you follow the format, then they will just publish it. But for penerbit USM, because it is in the form of scholarly book, so they will really edit your work. They will really read your work if there are sentences that's not suitable, it doesn't mean clearly, so they will advise you to improve it. Sometimes I think that the editor from penerbit USM read my books better than me. Okay, because they can actually look at things that I didn't see. Okay, which is very good. So I encourage you, if you have some simple books, some research work, simple things, you can send it out to penerbit USM. They will give you really great outputs. And unlike before, when we come up with a book, we only get it published in hard copy. So if you publish in hard copy, of course it's good, but other people will have limited access to it. Okay, if I mean, who actually a random person in MPH going to pick up your book? Nobody going to go to the bookstore just to find a research book related to turbidity meter. A research book, yes, but specific topic on turbidity meter, that's very rare chance for you to get. Okay, but now they're also selling the book online in Amazon, in Google book and so on. So it is actually allows the whole world to search the book online. Okay, and our book costs about 22 ringgit, Malaysian ringgit only, like for my book. Okay, it's very thin, so they sell for 20 ringgit something. So in USD, it costs about what, $4, $5 only. So definitely, it will give an easy access for other people to get your book. Okay, and so that is actually the range of publication. In journals, we have research work, research article. So that's a typical research. Your main research data, then you send it out for publication. Review article, you do not have to write any, you do not have to do any experiments. You just have to review only other people's research work. But for review article, it depends on the journal. I have 2 review articles. One is related to my master, and another one related to my PhD. When you come up with your thesis, okay, either master or undergraduate or PhD, your first 2 chapters, introduction and literature review, they are actually based on other people's research work. So you can combine these 2 chapters and make it as a single review article. Okay? And usually review article, journal will be more interested to it, because let's say you want to start with a research, you have no idea of how to begin things. You usually will prefer to read review article, because review article already summarize, all the relevant topics related to the title. Okay, so when you read the article, one article, everything is there. So usually journal will be interested with the review article. You should have, I think, more than 100 references or 200 references. It will be better if it is related to a specific topic. So my first review article related to turbidity meter, design and analytical approach, I think. That one was not that comprehensive, but the one which is more details was related to my PhD, which I did on fruits quality measurement, on the methods, on the theory behind it, and also the methods of measurement. But still, both articles is very broad. Okay, it's actually very broad. So if you want to get a better chance to publish your review article, go into really specific topic. Okay, for example, the application of solid state lighting in sensor application. So that's very narrow. Or the application of solid state lighting LEDs in pH as a pH sensor. So that's very narrow. Of course, to get the number of articles might not be that easy, but if you can collect sufficient number of articles, review it, so that will be amazing. Dr. Yam has written one review article, and the article was cited several hundreds times. So my review article, turbidity meter, was cited only about 50 something only. So after so many years, because it's too broad. Okay. So Dr. Yam because he did something related to LEDs, and in Malaysia alone, there are numbers of universities who are doing experiments, research on LEDs. So definitely there will be many readers on that articles. So that's how he get one article only been cited so many times, okay, hundreds of times. Similarly to Dr. Shahrul, one of his students, I think also writing review article on nanoparticles. So that one, after just I think 1 or 2 years only, has been cited more than 100 times, like just within 1 or 2 years, because she's actually writing something on the latest topic, on very specific and important topics on nanomaterials, I think. Okay, unlike mine, what is on turbidity meter is already there since many decades ago. Fruits quality also, the topic has been there for many decades. So not many people cited my articles. Okay, but that is something that you can venture in. Besides that, there are some journals also publish communication or letters. So communication, sometimes they use the word communication, sometimes they use the word letter. Letter or communication Sometimes when you do experiment, you suddenly find something which is very important. Okay, that you know that this research work, you cannot wait anymore. You need to get it published quickly because it shows something which is very much different. Okay, something very important, something very significant. So, but you can afford to write only a simple article related to it, maybe 2 pages or 3 pages only. So some of the journal do publish articles on communication or letter, okay, which requires you to write only just a small articles, but it's very significant output. So you can also try on something like that. I have one communication article, but it is not really a communication because the length of the article is more than 10 pages. Okay, it depends on the journal. So that one is just the title of the journal is a communication, but it's still similar to a full research article. Okay, except the literatures for that article is not that long compared to my other research article. Another one is they call it the technical paper. Okay, technical paper. I have one article on that which published in Sensor Review. That one I wrote it specifically on comparing 2 different turbidity meter design. So I elaborate in details all the components used, all the programming language that I've used. So it's very technical, okay, and it's related to comparative study. So one of the idea of novelty is not to always come out with something which is new, but to be able to compare 2 things is also considered as a novelty. Okay, one of the reasons why my research article turbidity meter has been accepted because the title is related to comparative study, so they accept it. Okay, there's a few besides on physics. I also write a research article related to education. That was my personal interest on education, on training. I also have one research article related to training, and also on social work. Also, I have one research article, but I only contribute in terms of doing the experiments. I don't really write the articles related to that. So, so if you are interested to pursue your career in academics or even as a researcher in factory, you should begin writing from now. Right? Because from my experience, some of my students, at the beginning, they completely have no idea on how to write. Okay, completely has no idea. But once they regularly meet with me, so I can slowly advise them, improve the articles. Sometimes once we look at the research article, we can roughly know, okay, whether this work can be published or not. Okay, in terms of the presentation of data, in terms of the quantity of data, in terms of how comprehensive the literature is. Okay, and just within a few weeks or few months, the student actually can improve significantly, because it's just a matter for them to grab the idea of what research article is all about. It's a skill that can be learned. Okay, it's not that you do not know how to write until the end you do not know. So it's not like that. Okay, for me also it's actually learning process. Until now, my research work also has been rejected. Okay, it doesn't mean that you reach a certain level, once you submit your article, it will be accepted. Definitely no. Even a Nobel Prize winner in physics also get his paper rejected. Okay, so there's no guarantee. So some of us, we are still new in writing. Definitely there's higher potential, especially now, because to be able to publish your work is one of the university important requirement. So sometimes for you to be able to graduate in master and PhD, also you need to write. So that makes everybody want to write. Okay, no matter what article data they have, they keep on sending to journal. Okay, so the rejection rate now is getting very high, very, very high. So the first impression of your article is important. Okay, I always prefer to have very comprehensive literature and a lot of data and different way of presenting your data. Okay, and it also depend on the research area. It doesn't mean that this guy has a lot of impact factor journal and this guy has just several impact factor journal once he graduated. So it doesn't mean that the one that with least impact factor journal is not good. It depends on research area. It's not easy to get your work published in certain field. Okay, macam theoretical physics, it's not easy. Okay, you need to spend time 1 year or 2 years just to come up with one paper. So it doesn't mean that he's not good. So once he's able to come up even one paper, but that paper is magnificent enough if compared to some of the research area, which is much easier for us to get it published. Okay, in my field, it depends. If I have a lot of data, then it's much easier for me to be able to get it published. Okay, and also, of course, I always believe that the first impression of research article is important. Okay, because the editor, once they receive your article, it will skim through. I've also become a reviewer for several journals, many impact factor journals as well. So usually when I receive a research article, the first impression is very important. So we just flip through the article, see how they presented their figures and so on. Especially in the field of spectroscopy, there are things that we expect to have to be available in the article. Okay, if you see that they have come up with a calibration, accuracy is 0.9%. It's very good. Calibration is good. But the prediction means the repetition of calibration only 0.6. Means something is wrong. Okay, so it's a very strange thing, and that's definitely you cannot accept. Okay, and sometimes once they write a research article, there is no scientific evidence on their findings. So that's actually things that qualifies us to reject the article, especially if they can't even follow the format. So that one memang completely we will reject it in the first place. Okay, if they are not serious in coming up with a proper formatting, how about the experimental result? Of course, there is something, something is not wrong. Something is not right. Okay. So that is actually several options for us to get it published. The importance of it is for us to be able to verify, to get firm conclusion that our works is actually at acceptable level. Of course, our supervisor sometimes will be overlooked, okay, because they have many other theses to look at. They have also some other works to do. They also sometimes might not be that careful in determining whether our research work is okay or not. Okay, so to know whether it's really good enough, we need to send it out. Okay, get an international audience of peers, okay, because the peers to review our work and to say whether it is okay or not. So that's actually to give us confidence on our work, and so that hopefully in the future people will cite our work. So that another happy thing for us when other people conducting experiment by referring to our work. Okay, even though they may be the work might be only published in conference proceeding and so on, but we know that someone else actually reading our work, not as part of literature. Sometimes they're using our work as the main idea of their research. So that's even more better. Right? So once you get your work published, now especially it's available online, people will start to recognize you. Okay, they will invite you to review research article. So if people start to invite you to review the articles, you will now become reviewer. It shows that other people start to recognize you. Okay, sometimes even the journal which you never send your articles to them, they're also willing to contact you. Okay, of course, the name of reviewer, potential reviewer, usually will be suggested by author. Okay, but whether it is selected by author or editor is actually good things for us. It shows that somebody else is actually recognizing you, okay, and willing to suggest your name to become a reviewer. One of the editor, a co-editor from a censor review journal, her name is Joanne Prensky. You can Google her name, Joanne Prensky. She actually sent a personal email to me asking me to write a book review. Okay, I can select any books related to censor available in the market, whether I want it ebooks or hard copy books, and she wanted me to write just a brief review on the books, on the selected book. Okay, to be published under the journal, the censor review journal, because the censor review journal, they also publish a section under book review, just one paragraph long, about 500 words or 200 words, something. Okay. So when a person, especially when you know who she is, invited you, so that again will give you some some confidence in your research work, because she has 1,000 more options for her to choose, and everybody will be happy to write a book review for the journal, but she selected us. Okay, so if you have mobile phone, you can check who she is. She is considered as first robot psychologist. Even CNN also interviewed her related to her passion in robotics. So when this happens, so of course that really makes us happy. Okay, even though it's just a book review, but when you have direct conversation with her, right, that really means something to us. Okay, that's only when I've written just a few research articles. Some of those highly reputable professors available in USM, of course, they have. There are many other people who have invited them. Okay, have you heard the name of Prof. Amin MB? I cannot remember, from UKM or UPM. His idea was actually extremely good. I've attended one of his training back in several years ago. He's actually expert in similar to Prof. Karim, to use all the computer tools for teaching and learning purposes. So his idea was he loved to write, but he was thinking that if he want to write a book to be sold in the market, who's actually going to buy the book? So what he did was he come up with a booklet, just a simple articles related to certain tools, computer tools for teaching and learning purposes. Just a simple articles, but he published it free online. Okay, so when it is free, so there are more people will keep on reading your work, right? And that's how people will start to recognize him. So even though those from university from US and some other country also invited him to give talk, because people have direct access to your work. People can easily know who you are from your writing. People know your expertise. Okay, if I write a book, for example, who's actually going to, even though it's something it's $5. People may think twice, because there was something they can't afford it, but they still have to go a lot of process to buy and so on. It would be better if it is free of charge. Okay, so that's actually a good idea as well. So if it doesn't need to be novel things, okay, unless you want to send it to a journal, it could be just simple things. But you write down a complete matters on how to use a certain tools in your experiments. Sometimes people may need it. Okay. And by that way, he's actually get very popular. He even won Anugerah Akademik Negara. I cannot remember in which year. Prof. Karim is one of it. Because his passion in publication and also his writing. So that is actually extremely good idea. Cuma the difference is that sometimes when we, especially as a lecturer, when we work, we want it to be published in Impact Factor Journal, because that gives you extra credit. Books, KPI. If you publish it free online, I'm not sure it's counted as publication. I don't think it's counted as publication. Okay? Sebab tak ada orang review pun. Nobody reviewing your work. But it's important. It's for popularity. That's actually, because of course, he, like Prof. Also, he has his own, important research work. He get it published in proper books, proper publisher, in journal. But those is simple things. Simple things, of course, you cannot get it published in journal. So it's better for you to still write it and give it free online. So that's actually one thing you do for popularity, one thing you do for your KPI. Same like Prof. Karim as well. He said you need to make yourself popular. Okay, by writing blogs related to your research area. So these are all the free information which is available. Okay, free information which is available to people. That's how people start to recognize you. If every article that you have written, some university, especially third world country, they might not be able to afford all the journals, so they don't have access to you, to whatever you have written. So only those university that pay for the journal, that purchase the journal, only have access to the journal. So that's actually limited. Unless if you publish your work in open access journal, which you have to pay. Okay, as an author you have to pay it a few thousand ringgit, then your article will be published freely online. So that's good as well. Okay, but again, if you don't have money, you don't have grant, you still cannot do it. Okay? Like Prof. Karim always advise, say you can come up with your own blog that's free of charge. Publish all whatever research things, simple things, methods, your activities with students online, just to make sure that people know who you are. Okay, so that is actually interesting thing that you can learn from those who already have a very high reputation in academic. Okay, like for me also, I'm still learning from those who have fully established in this area. Okay, so for Tammy, do you have anything to ask?
Wow, okay, questions? So actually I have questions. Okay. So actually in some, for example like me, I'm doing research, right? But sometimes my experiment data sometimes is not parallel to it's not same or similarities to the research journals. Even though I follow the instruction, I follow the same methods, but then I don't get the same result. And sometimes I have some colleagues, and some of them is sometimes changing the data in purpose to publish the journals.
Sebab itu in writing, yes, integrity and you need passion.
The real things happen.
That one of course is very obvious. For example, like my research work is only quantitative experiment. So you already know the predicted result how. You're supposed to get linear. But suddenly you get linearity but 44% only. Okay? But you can simply, you know that it's supposed to be linear. So you can just push all the data to the straight line. Who's going to know? Nobody going to know. Right? But that's how, coming back to you. Right? Certain things, reviewer will definitely, nobody will know.
Yeah.
For example, if I adulterate my data, it is supposed to be linear, but because I'm not going to do an experiment, all my data scattered. So I can change the data. I simply change the data. Sometimes I did only for example, I only have 50 samples, but I can claim that I do 200 samples. I didn't change my R squared, I didn't change the linearity, but to make it more significant, I make it 200 samples. Right? Who can know about it? So that's why when it comes to this is actually coming back to integrity. Nobody will know, but it's just between you and your patient. So how, like for me, even though I only publish my work in 0.5 impact factor, 0.8, 1 point something, the highest impact factor I able to get only 2.1, I think. So some of the field of experiment, my colleague something they can publish at 6 or something. But it's depend on research area. But at least it gives me a lot of confidence with myself because I do everything on my own. So this is the experiment I've conducted. This is actually the data I get. With this, I'm able to get it published. But if we change the data as we like, nobody know. But in the end, we can get it published, but it will never help us in become satisfaction. That one definitely will affect us psychologically. It will never improve our self-confidence. So once we begin that one, once we get used to it, we'll even in our daily life also we start to change things. We start to lie. So itu memang that will definitely will give back impact to us. Monetary wise, of course we might gain something, but the happiness won't be there. The satisfaction won't be there. Okay, so I know that some students may have done that. Okay. But those related to biology, even the professors also in foreign countries has been caught of cheating. Okay, there was a case in this one is actually not cheating, but it's unethical. There was one case, I'm not sure in which country. This scholar, this academician from one university, he actually wanted to get a blood sample. Okay, of course, to get a blood sample from participant may be a bit difficult. So you need ethical approval and so on. But what he did was during his son or daughter birthday party, he took a blood sample from all the kids. Okay. But then, of course, I think one of the parents get to know about it and complain it. So this thing get to know by the journal and they rejected the article.
Wow.
So that was very unethical. But it's not cheating. That was a real sample. That was a real blood, real sample. But it's unethical. Yeah.
How about picking? They does not choose the sample, but they carefully select that sample so that.
Okay, in experiment, if let's say we have 100 sample, okay, but sometimes when we do the experiment, for example, one of the sample we wrongly do the experiment on it, and in the linear line, all the, for example, 99 samples is good, but only one data suddenly out. So that's obviously an outlier. So we can actually remove it. Okay, some of us if we do for undergraduate lab session, we can declare as outliers and we can remove it. Okay, for journal usually we don't declare it, but it is obvious. We know that this is not adulteration, but adulterated the data, but it is actually a mistake that we have done technically that causes the data to go out. So we can simply remove it because we have still 99 data that actually proven to be true. Tapi if let's say we have 50 sample, 40 is already out of line, so means that something's wrong with us. So we have to repeat it all over again. Kalau completely very minority, so it's okay, we can remove it.
Another part in publishing data. So there's in recent years there has been they say that not enough journal accept negative data, means that people usually publish paper that prove their thesis or something, but most people does not publish things that disprove their thesis. Some argue that publishing negative data could actually help in other people doing wasting time doing not important work.
Because I think the idea of having journal is actually to report the real thing, right? So that's why when you get thing wrong, so so it's not qualified to be accepted, or else you will see that hundreds of failed data will be published online.
There's argument for not publishing negative data, but some also argue that certain negative data is.
So if that is clear, that is important of publish thing unofficially. So it's that's why we have like things like blogs, our own website. So under our own name, it's not going to be reviewed. So we can share the idea that if we are using this method, this will be the negative effect from the results. So that way we can share it, no problem. So that it is still available. If we want to talk about scholarly work, we want to talk about sharing the knowledge. It's not necessary to be published. Then only we can share it. We can also put it in the blog. Those failed result. Okay, so if this is the method, this is failed. This is the method, this is failed. So that when people read it, people don't have to repeat it to avoid the mistake that we have done. But those successful data, then we send it to journal.
So because if we publish it and people read it and they see some mistake maybe in our method, they can improve on it.
Even though it has been accepted by journal, sometimes there are also cases where we have made a sincere mistake. So we have done our best in doing the experiment.